My name is Benny Bonsu. I am the Director of Daily Content for Olympics.com as part of the Olympic Channel Services. I am also the founder of 3012 Leaders Foundation. My journey into sports started very young. As a young woman coming from Africa, sports wasn't part of the equation. In fact, my parents thought I was going to end up becoming a nurse or a teacher. In fact, I did become a teacher. But I loved sports. I competed in sports all the way throughout to the age of 18 years old. But I always had a passion for writing. I like to write. I like to write real stories, but also very passionate about community, sports, grassroots. And over the years, throughout university, I would find myself watching sports and wanting to tell the story of the athletes. When I decided to go into the sports industry, I started within radio at actually BBC World Service. And I truly enjoyed that, but it was such a bigger market for me out there. And as a woman in sports at that time, it wasn't very common. But also, most importantly, being a Black woman in sports was also extremely odd. And the opportunities really didn't exist for people like me. So the way in which I built a platform for myself was to actually go by myself and start writing and doing blogs on my own. And building that relationship with athletes that they could trust me to tell their story. We know we lived in a climate and still live in a climate of where stories are sensationalized. So I built a platform for myself where athletes were trusting me to tell their story the way they wanted their story to be told. And that's how I did it. And through that, gradually, I started building my profile and started working for bigger platforms. Over the years, 2020, 2018, as a woman of color within the space, I couldn't do this as a full-time because I was getting paid less than most people within sports, and especially being a woman of color, I was being paid less than everybody else. So I was teaching. I was a teacher by day, and then by night, I was on your TV screens, I was on radio. In 2017, I took the jump, and I said, I'm going to do this full-time. And I went for it. I went for the role of head of women's sports for Give Me Sports, and luckily, I got the job. By getting that job, I wanted to be intentional. I didn't see women like me in the media. In fact, I didn't see diverse women in media. And one of the first things I wanted to implement was that I was going to hire an all-female team. And I remember my boss at the time said, well, how are we going to do that? I don't have money for it. And I said, well, find the money. But I'm recruiting 20 women from all walks of life, and they're going to be writing about sports. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy challenge for me, and it wasn't an easy challenge for him. But it was about educating him and why this was important at the time. I've grown up, and the only people I saw on TV was, Olympic athlete Denise Lewis and Dame Kelly Holmes are the people that I saw, nobody else. So for me, being intentional for this was really important because for the Black girl at home, the white girl at home, the Arab girl at home or the Chinese kid at home, if they could see somebody that looks like them that is doing this job, it gives them, inspires them that, when I wake up, when I grow up one day, I could also do this. And we did that with Give Me Sports. We made a lot of noise in the first year. We were at every event. We covered every story. But again, we were telling the real stories of the athletes, not sensationalized. We don't want to be famous for 5 minutes. We want to tell the stories that inspire. And, the world caught up to it. And ahead of the Women's World Cup in France, all the big broadcasters also started doing the same. Promoting, we're being intentional. We have a diverse broadcasting team, and it became a thing. 5-6 years later, we're watching women's basketball at NCAA at 2.3 million people watching women's basketball. We couldn't have dreamt of that 10 years, 15 years ago. 2024, we're doing it. We have the Olympics coming to Paris in less than four months. It will be the first time we have 50-50 priority. And for me, thinking back as my journey, as the young girl from inner city London, Tottenham, doing grassroots sports, coaching grassroots, and then deciding to take the plunge and write. Ended up on radio, going on TV, covering sports globally, to being the director of daily content for the Olympic Channel Services for Olympics.com. Yeah, when I look back sometimes I shake and just pinch myself just to make sure that this is real. But that's how my journey started in sports. And I sit here today very proud that I did do that, because now I look back and I see a lot of women that look like me doing what I do within global platforms. I remember going home and telling my mom, after sending me to school, paying all this money, going to university, and I said, I want to be a sports journalist. My mother is African. She was born in Ghana. She, educated, worked for the health service for many years. And here I am, her daughter, wanting to go into sports, where I've grown up in a family of boys. My mother didn't get it, but she also didn't fight me. It was heated discussions at the start because, I've wasted her money. But she let me be, and my father is the same. My father was just happy that he had a daughter that he could talk about football with. We support Tottenham together, we can watch the games together, but to do it as a job, I'm not sure he felt comfortable with it, but he knew I loved it. And most importantly, the community in which I grew up in Tottenham, I had an amazing coach. His name is Berg Graves, a German guy that, moved to the UK many years ago and decided to, do grassroots coaching, truly believed that I could do this. I think at times I didn't think I could do it because the only two people I had seen was Denise Lewis and Dame Kelly Holmes. And at the times where I didn't believe I could do it, he would always push me just a little bit, go do it. You have the personality for this. And when I got into the industry at the start, a lot of people didn't think I belonged there. And that was tough because you're battling yourself that, do I really want to do this? And then you're there. And a lot of people think you're there because you're ticking the box, the diversity box, the woman box. You shouldn't be here. You know nothing about sports. And that was tough. And it's still tough now because people still looking at you, even though you've had more than a decade of experience and you have the knowledge and you've done this. You've built the trust with the athletes that, they trust you to tell their story. And they still don't believe you have a place, and a place that you're there because you're taking the box for statistics. And that's the reality. And that's the mindset we've got to change. But for me, with all the fights that I've had over the years and growing in this space, I wouldn't change it for anything. Because I think that's what makes us such strong people within the industry, such strong women within sports. But also what it does do is allow us to educate the people that are giving us those challenges. My mother now is my PR agent. She doesn't even know she's my PR agent. She does it without thinking. She would be on the phone to her friends. She's like, did you see Benny? She was on UNESCO's website. Then she was on the BBC, and then she was invited to Minutes. She's so excited that she has a daughter that does all of this. Then I've got my uncles. Sadly, my dad passed away, so he doesn't get to see a lot of the work that I'm doing. But I have adopted fathers now and uncles that everywhere I go, my niece, she works for the Olympics. She does this and she's doing that. And she's, last week she interviewed this person. And that makes you feel proud because you not just inspired girls from all walks of life, but you're inspiring men that didn't think women had the space in this area. And that really does make me smile sometimes. I have to step back and just watch them. I sit in the kitchen sometimes and watch my uncles talk about me to their friends. And it's like, I wish, the boys did this. Benny does better than them. And you can see that the mindset is changing, and that's what you want. I still have that having to prove my worth and my knowledge in this space. It is funny because I always say to my colleagues is that I spent years acting dumb just so that other people can feel more important when they're speaking. And I speak to men when I say that. I've been in so much meetings where some of the men would just speak just to speak, and they think you don't know. And I would act dumb just to see what would come out of their mouths. And I let them finish. Then I put them in their place because they're looking at you already that you don't know it. And it's not because they have a fact that you don't know it. They just think because you're a woman, what do you know about sports? What do you know about sports management? What do you know about sports business? In fact, what do you know about sports media? The fact is, that women, I think there's a crazy statistics that they say a man would apply for a job when they have only one skill on the job application. A woman wants to wait till they have 100% before they go for the job. So if a woman is waiting for 100% to go for the job and you have 1%, what makes you think you know more than me? And in my career, especially at the start, I acted like I didn't know. and I let them be, so they feel comfortable. But now in this position, at times, I don't act dumb. I stay quiet and I let them finish. And when they finish, I bury them with knowledge. Because I think it is important as women in these positions, we need to change the mindset of these men and not be shy about doing that. Don't be scared to speak up, because we spend years learning this. If there's one thing I took away from my mother, is that when everybody reads one book, you read 3. So when you walk into the room, they're already judging you that you don't know. So when you speak and you open your mouth, they pay attention because you know exactly what you're talking about. So for me, in my career, when I'm being challenged by my knowledge, my skill, my experience, or trying to bully me into coming out of the industry because they don't think I know or they think I'm a statistic, I always find the opportunity to educate them on why I'm here and why I'm still going to be here after all the madness. I think it is important to fight this inequality, gender inequality in every field, but most importantly in sports. Sports has the power to bring a lot of people together. We love to come together to celebrate events. Whether it's the World Cup, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's the European Championships, we're all there because we want to know who's going to win. But also the power athletes have is a power that most people don't have. Everybody has an idol. Everybody has somebody that they look up to. I look up to LeBron James. I look up to Allyson Felix. If any of those two says something that I believe in, I'm more likely to act because they said it. And I think within this inequality, when we talk about gender inequality, we need the athletes. And to be fair, some athletes are great allies. The ones that stand for us, the ones that work with us on and off the field of play in trying to balance this area. And I must say, even in my journey and in my career, the people that gave me my first opportunities were athletes. It was the NBA players. It was the Premier League players that would stop and say, Benny, you can come to my house and do this interview because I know you're going to tell the real story. They're the ones that gave me the opportunity to shine. And I think when it comes to gender inequality, if you start with the athletes that the world respects, you have a better chance of the world changing their mindset if it's a whole group of people that are top of their game, believing that this is what we need as a society. We're much better off than just talking amongst ourselves and hoping for the best. I think every area we need to fight it, but athletes and athletes' voices is more powerful than we know. I think sports is for all. I think things are changing. I think we're moving away from this is just masculine sports and this is just female sports. I think we're moving into an area where everybody has the access and ability to compete in any sports they want. When we talk about sports having the power to bring people together, it's also having the power to have people experience every single sport. I don't think we're where we are 20 years ago. I don't think we are where we are 50 years ago. I think in 2024, we can honestly say, yes, things are changing. Are we 100%? No, but we are better off than we were 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And we still have some more work to do. And the work that we've got to do is also, again, shifting mindsets when it comes to sports, when it comes to gender inequalities. Why is it that women can't play rugby? Why is it that women can't play football? We know things are changing. Since Women's World Cup in France in 2018 till now, you only have to watch the European Championships when England won. The whole of Europe stopped to watch the Women's Championship. We talk about Women's World Cup last year, huge numbers. We talk about women's football games, like in season, stadiums are filling out. Well, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we'd have not even 200 people go to watch women's sports. So things are changing. We're not there yet. We still need society, governments, ministers, people with power to really invest in the growth of women's sports. But when we talk about investing in women's sports, it's also talking about equality for all. Invest in women's sports, but also educate men and boys on why this is important, why we all need to come together. Things are changing. We're not 100%, but we will get there. When it comes to pay, for gender equality pay within sports, it's not normal. It's not normal that men get more than women, but it's something that has been normalized, and it's normalized by the people with the power. When you speak to female athletes and you speak to a footballer, says, I've got to finish training because I've got to go to work. That's not normal. This is a female that has a job, a full-time job, plays for a national team, plays for a local team, and we want her to work another job and pay her less than the man who just has to play football for a living? That's not normal. Things are changing. Yes, women, when it comes to investing in women and paying women equally, we still have a long way to go. But the way things change, it comes with changing the mindset. The people that hold the power are still the men in the room. So if we want that to change, we need to change the mindset of the men with the power in the room. We talk about the investment in women's sports. We talk about the landscape changing of more people going to watch women's football, women's basketball, women's volleyball. As the audiences are growing, I do believe that people are now sitting up and paying attention how the things are changing. And now the fight for equal pay, when you look at Finland and all the other countries that are now saying, when it comes to national team, you have to pay them 50-50. It is important that we take that stand. You look at Team USA at the last Women's World Cup. The women's team have been more successful than the men. And yet still the women were getting paid less than the men over the years. And the fight they took up, it's like, look at all the trophies we've won. The men are still yet to win one. And you're paying them more. It doesn't even make sense. And it doesn't make sense to anybody that's watching it at home. So things are not where, like I said, when it's changing, we're not 100%. But, as we change mindsets, as we change the men in power that are sitting around the table, as we bring more women to the table and start to educate them on why it is important to be fair and to be equal, that's where we'll be 100%. But it is great to see women's teams, some men allies speaking up on this and say, look, you need to give the women what they're worth. You cannot call this person a national hero and then watch them finish off playing football and then go and work in the local shop just to survive. That's not on. I would say always the Team USA women's football team, because they've been the most vocal about this. They've always talked about the pay inequality. They've talked about the spotlight and the highlights of what they've achieved and still being overlooked when it comes to pay. I would say the England women's team, when they won the European Championships, again, the conversation on equal pay came up. And now they've also implemented it. I think those are the voices we should look to. There's a reason why they're asking for equal pay. You send them to go compete. You send them to go win. They've gone. They've won many medals and many trophies. And you still want to pay them less than half? Like, it doesn't even make sense. So when we talk about role models and gender inequality, especially pay, I always look to Team USA women's football because they were unapologetic about addressing this issue. And they made the issue a comfortable issue to talk about. Before it was uncomfortable to talk about pay. Nobody wants to talk about their pay and how much you're getting paid because you don't know who your fellow person is getting paid. But they made it comfortable to the point where the male athletes supported their stands. And that's where we want to be. If we want to be aspirational, we look to those women that have spoken about it unapologetically and said, no, we can't do all this work and you pay us less. We are worth we're worth the money. You can't pay us less and hope for the best. That's not where we are. We are in 2024. Pay me my money. Today we've spent the day talking about tackling gender-based violence in sports when it comes to women and girls. It's been a sad day listening to athletes that have experienced this, shared the experiences, but also looking at the growth. I think the number was 87% of women that participated in the last Tokyo Games 2020 received majority of the online abuse from fans. Yes, it's getting worse, and it's getting worse because of the change in society. The fact that we are on social media, we're on social platforms, and people are empowered to be in their seats to send abuse to others. It's not where we want to be at all in sports or anywhere. And, as we talk about it today, we spend a day talking about what ideas, what can we do, what policies is in place to ensure that we can change this behavior. One, identify the behavior. Two, how do we tackle it at a grassroots level? And three, can we just look at, not just preventing, but how do we educate? And I think as we talk about Fit for Life and we talk about the framework of Fit for Life, and today we had the Council of Europe tell us, they've sent this survey out to all member states. Only 3 has come back, and at most, it was about 43% of these member states, or 22 or something like that, have policies. Now, for me, as an ordinary person in sports, I would have thought that member states already have this. We should have policies that we're implementing. But we've learned today that they don't. So until we can have one framework, that we will have, for example, with the Fit for Life, to implement it at a national level to the point that it goes to grassroots level where teachers, coaches, parents, ministers, sports team, federations can look at it and say, this is the standardized framework that we have to deal with when it comes to gender-based violence. Until we have that, we're going to still have these issues or growing issues of athletes being abused online, gender-based violence in sports. But we've got to get to the point where when this framework is then implemented, and again, we look at UNESCO to lead this because you have the power to do this and the power to change this. Until they do that, we can't have those uncomfortable conversations about how we tackle abuse online, how we tackle gender-based violence on a grassroots level, on the professional level, but also the survivors of gender-based violence. But this is something that just the reason why we're all here today is to bring people to the table and say, look, this framework is going to support this work. Let's implement this policy to have a better society. Because 87% of online abuse for female athletes, that's wild. That's me. That's my niece. That's my sister. That's somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, somebody's sister. Everybody has a female in their family. Now imagine they're one of those people that is receiving abuse. That's not on. I do understand that the privileged position I'm in now, based on the journey that I've taken, but I think that's all been possible. I can speak of my boss at OCS, Olympic Channel Services, Yanis, who's the Managing Director and Executive Director for Olympic Broadcasting Services, and my other boss, Mary Bryan, that are very supportive when it comes to this area of work, but also most important, supportive to me in the journey of having a voice and pushing for equality. I think for me, in the next couple of years, again, the fight is always for equality, equal pay for all sports teams. But also the other thing I care about the most in the next 5 years is how we raise the awareness of engaging and giving access to sports for all girls, not just girls in the West, but girls in Africa, girls in Asia, girls in the Middle East. How do we include them? We can't forget them. We cannot forget them. We're having this push for change, but there are certain parts of the world that they haven't even started the fight. They don't even know there's a fight. They don't even know there's inequalities. So it's raising the awareness and the issues of those places, but also working with organizations and people that believe in equipping young people with the tools to engage in sports. I'm currently working in Dakar, working in Ghana through my 3012 Leaders Foundation to raise the awareness, working in the Middle East with that as well, giving young people the platform, giving them tools to first engage in sports and then the opportunity to discuss issues just like gender inequality, gender-based violence, so they are aware. And that's what I'm passionate about. Being a UNESCO Fit for Life star is a privilege for me. It's a privilege for me to be a star and have a voice. And the reason why I have a voice is because of my experiences growing up in sports. And it's important for me to share my story, but most importantly for me as a person, whether it's my professional career now with Olympic Channel Services or as a star for UNESCO or within my foundation, is always to lift other girls, to lift other women through my experiences, giving my time mentoring. I mentor a lot. I mentor a lot of females within the industry that are still going through these things, but also I mentor young girls that want to work in an industry and trying to give them the right path to get into sports. So for me, like I said, give myself 10 years. You see me as a president or minister of sports somewhere. And whilst I'm there and I'm at that table where I can make decisions that can impact real change, that's where I'll think that I am at the top. But right now, I'm still trying to get there. Olympic and Paralympic Games coming to Paris is an excitement. I'm excited about it because, again, I've said this time and time again, it's the first time we will see 50 50 men and women competing at the games. For me, what I would say for people to pay attention to, I can't give you the editorial secrets away because, we want you to be excited about it. But I will say tune into Olympics.com because you won't want to miss anything at all. You're going to have everything on there. But pay attention to the human stories of the athletes. There are going to be some incredible stories that come to Paris. I'll give you one. Team South Sudan, a very young country, just come out of a civil war. Civil war, actually, in fact, still going on. They've qualified for the Olympics for the first time. The team is made out of individual refugees. The team is being led by a refugee, Luo Deng, who, as a refugee, escaped South Sudan, went to Egypt, escaped to the UK, represented the UK, became a legend for the Chicago Bulls, retired, and every money he earned, he went back to South Sudan to help rebuild the country. He's doing incredible work in South Sudan, and he will lead a refugee team. It's not a refugee team, it's a team made out of refugees to Paris. Now, that's unheard of, and that's an incredible story to tell. A refugee leading a team made up of refugee athletes, and I think with stories like that and more, women that, are given birth and then 3 months later they're competing in the games. Those stories are the stories you should look out for because those are the stories that's going to inspire change.